Have you ever eaten something that seemed healthy, only to end up in the hospital with dangerously high blood pressure for no clear reason? It wasn't because your food was too salty. It wasn't because you skipped a meal. It was simply because you believed in the wrong idea of what healthy eating really is. Many people over 60 think they're doing a great job managing their blood pressure. They go for morning walks. They take their meds on time, and they eat foods that feel familiar, easy to digest, and convenient every day. But then one day, they feel dizzy. Their blood pressure reads 170. Their legs start to swell. Vision becomes blurry. The chest feels tight, and mornings are filled with fatigue, and they don't understand why. As a health expert, let me say this clearly. The danger often doesn't come from the foods you think are bad. It comes from the ones you believe are good. There are certain foods that almost every senior eats, even believing they help lower blood pressure, support digestion, or reduce cholesterol. But in reality, they silently damage blood vessels, reduce medication effectiveness, and push blood pressure higher day by day. What's worse, these foods don't give you any obvious warning signs. You don't feel dizzy right after eating them. You don't feel sick, but your blood pressure keeps rising. Your arteries keep stiffening, and your heart has to work harder with every beat. So, what are these 7 foods? They're not exotic. They're not deep-fried street food. They're the everyday items in your fridge, on your breakfast table, in that sandwich you pack for work, or in the healthy snack box you keep on the counter. If you're middle-aged or older, or if your parents are starting to show signs of blood pressure issues, now is the time to take a serious look at your daily diet, because chances are you're eating 3 to 4 of these foods every week, unknowingly feeding a future of chronic hypertension right from your kitchen table. 7. Rotisserie chicken. Rotisserie chicken, a familiar dish for many Americans, especially older adults, is quietly becoming a hidden killer for heart health. With its low price, convenience, and image as lean white meat, this ready-to-eat roasted chicken is commonly purchased from supermarkets like Costco, Walmart, and Kroger. However, few people realize that the extremely high sodium content in this food is silently causing blood pressure to spike over time, particularly in older adults. On average, one serving of rotisserie chicken, about 1/4 of a chicken, around 100 grams of meat, contains 500 to 600 milligrams of sodium. And if you eat half a chicken, which many people do, the sodium content can exceed 1,200 milligrams, which is nearly 60% of the recommended daily sodium limit for individuals over 60 years old. According to the American Heart Association, AHA, sodium intake should be under 1,500 milligrams per day for seniors or those at risk of heart disease. This doesn't include the skin, which is heavily seasoned, or the sauces served on the side, both of which can double the total salt intake. It's not just about salt. Rotisserie chicken is often seasoned with sodium phosphate, a compound used to keep the meat moist and tender for longer. However, sodium phosphate places an additional burden on the kidneys and is especially dangerous for older adults with chronic high blood pressure, kidney disease, or diabetes. Studies have shown that a diet high in inorganic phosphate is linked to increased blood pressure, vascular endothelial damage, and higher cardiovascular mortality rates. Source: Journal of the American Society of Nephrology, 2013. A real-world survey in 2021 by Consumer Reports also found that each brand of rotisserie chicken can contain 400 to 700 milligrams of sodium in just a small serving, meaning that many consumers are unknowingly accumulating health risks every day. The real danger here is that older adults in the US often choose rotisserie chicken as a main meal due to its convenience and perceived healthiness, especially when they're avoiding red meat. But consuming this dish frequently, an average of 3 to 4 meals per week, can lead to chronic hypertension, fluid retention, headaches, fatigue, and in the long run, higher risk of stroke and heart failure. Rotisserie chicken is not inherently bad, but for older adults, especially those managing blood pressure, this is not a safe food to eat regularly. The best approach is to remove the skin, choose breast meat, avoid sauces, eat it only in moderation, and balance it with plenty of vegetables, potassium-rich foods, and reduced sodium in other meals. 6. Canned soup. Did you know that just one can of soup a day could silently be raising your blood pressure? It sounds light and nutritious, but behind that shiny metal can lies a hidden health threat. Canned soup is a very common meal among older adults in the US. It's cheap, easy to heat up, and often marketed as a healthy option. But the truth is, a standard can of soup can contain 800 to over 1,300 milligrams of sodium. That's up to 90% of the recommended daily limit for people over 60, and many seniors eat the whole can, unknowingly overloading their bodies with salt. Too much sodium increases blood pressure, causes water retention, headaches, and over time raises the risk of stroke, heart failure, and kidney damage. Worse still, creamy soups like mushroom, clam chowder, or broccoli cheese also contain saturated fats and refined carbohydrates, which further harm heart and metabolic health. A 2017 study published in the British Medical Journal found that just 1 to 2 servings of processed food per day can increase systolic blood pressure by 4 to 5 millimeters of mercury and raise the risk of stroke by 21% and heart failure by 15%. And yes, canned soup is one of the top culprits. Many canned soups also contain MSG, monosodium glutamate, and preservatives. For older adults, especially those on medications, MSG may trigger palpitations, dizziness, and mild to moderate spikes in blood pressure. So, what's the best solution? Switch to homemade soup. Use fresh vegetables, boiled chicken, lentils, and low-sodium broth. Add potassium-rich ingredients like sweet potatoes and spinach to help balance out the sodium. If you or a loved one over 60 is regularly eating canned soup, take a closer look at the nutrition label and share this video today. Your heart just might thank you later. 5. Sandwich in the US. Sandwiches are an essential part of lunch for millions of people, especially older adults, those living alone, or anyone looking for a light, easy-to-digest, protein-rich meal. Cold cuts like ham, turkey, salami, or roast beef are often seen as healthier alternatives to fried red meat. However, few realize that this seemingly wholesome meal may be silently damaging the cardiovascular health of seniors, especially those already dealing with high blood pressure. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, a typical sandwich made with 2 slices of bread, 2 slices of deli meat, 1 slice of cheese, and a bit of mayo or mustard can contain 1,200 to 1,500 milligrams of sodium, equivalent to or even exceeding the recommended daily sodium limit for people over 60, which is 1,500 milligrams per day per the American Heart Association, AHA. This doesn't even include extras like pickles, potato chips, or soda, all of which can double the salt and sugar intake, creating a compound effect that spikes blood pressure. Cold cuts, meaning prepackaged or sliced deli meats, are considered ultra-processed foods, cured to last longer on shelves. They typically contain sodium nitrate, phosphate, and other preservatives that help retain color and extend shelf life. The problem is, these additives can damage blood vessel linings, cause vasoconstriction, raise blood pressure, and increase the risk of kidney damage, particularly in older adults. A 2020 study published in the Journal of Clinical Hypertension found that people who consumed more than 5 servings of cold cuts per week had a 22% higher risk of hypertension compared to those who rarely or never ate them. Additionally, sodium phosphate, often used in deli meats, is also linked to osteoporosis and chronic kidney disease in seniors. It doesn't stop there. The bread used in sandwiches, whether white or whole grain, also contributes significantly to total sodium intake. On average, one slice of bread contains 150 to 250 milligrams of sodium, meaning 2 slices add 300 to 500 milligrams right off the bat, even before counting the fillings. Many store-bought breads in the U.S. are made with salt as a preservative and leavening aid. So the more light you think you're eating, the more hidden salt you're actually consuming. A study in the American Journal of Public Health, 2015, concluded sandwiches are among the top 10 sources of sodium in the American diet, and regular consumption is directly linked to increased blood pressure and cardiovascular disease in older adults. Consistently high sodium intake from sandwiches and deli meats can lead to chronic hypertension, placing long-term stress on the cardiovascular system. In older adults, excess sodium doesn't just raise blood pressure. It also causes fluid retention, leading to swollen legs, shortness of breath, fatigue, all common signs of underlying heart failure. The kidneys are also impacted, especially in those with pre-existing conditions like diabetes or mild renal impairment. Excess sodium may also interfere with common hypertension medications, such as diuretics or ACE inhibitors, reducing their effectiveness and increasing the risk of complications. That said, if you still enjoy eating sandwiches, seniors can make a few smart changes to reduce the risks. Choose boiled, unseasoned chicken cooked at home instead of prepackaged cold cuts loaded with preservatives. Opt for low-sodium or homemade bread to better control salt intake. Replace cheese and high-fat mayo with low-sodium yellow mustard, and add fresh vegetables like lettuce and cucumber to increase fiber and potassium, both of which help lower blood pressure naturally. Most importantly, try to limit sandwich consumption to 1 to 2 times per week, and avoid eating them on consecutive days to reduce the buildup of sodium and additives in the body. Fourth, pizza. Pizza, a dish that seems harmless, is actually one of the most dangerous foods for older adults with high blood pressure. With its rich flavors, convenience, and popularity in American food culture, pizza is a staple at family meals, parties, and daily fast food choices. But that's exactly why so many people, especially seniors, underestimate how harmful it can be to heart health. According to the American Heart Association, AHA, adults, especially older adults, should consume no more than 1,500 milligrams of sodium per day to help control blood pressure and reduce the risk of heart disease. In reality, just one slice of regular pizza contains between 600 to over 900 milligrams of sodium coming from the crust, cheese, sauce, and processed meats like pepperoni or sausage. When an older person eats just 2 slices, which is common, they may exceed 1,500 milligrams of sodium in a single meal, not even counting sides like fries or soda. That's a salt bomb for an aging cardiovascular system. Beyond sodium, pizza also packs in a significant amount of saturated fat, mostly from cheese and processed meats. These fats raise bad cholesterol, LDL, lower good cholesterol, HDL, stiffen arteries, and narrow blood vessels, all of which increase blood pressure and strain the heart. Processed meats also contain nitrates and phosphates, preservatives that extend shelf life but add stress to the kidneys and cause blood vessels to constrict. This is especially dangerous for older adults with underlying conditions like kidney disease, diabetes, or those taking diuretics. A study published in the journal Hypertension, AEHA, found that consuming processed foods high in sodium, fat, and nitrates like pizza 3 or more times per week increases the risk of hypertension by up to 29% in people over 60. What's more, the habit of eating pizza at dinner, typically with few vegetables and high amounts of liquid from soda, worsens water retention, swollen legs, shortness of breath, and fatigue, all early signs of potential heart failure. Even worse, excess sodium and fat intake can interfere with blood pressure medications. Drugs like diuretics, ACE inhibitors, or beta blockers become less effective. In other words, even if an older adult is taking medication for high blood pressure, regular pizza consumption can completely undermine treatment efforts. Pizza isn't inherently bad if eaten correctly. But for older adults managing hypertension, it's a food that demands serious caution. Instead of commercial pizza loaded with sodium, cheese, and processed meat, older adults should choose healthier homemade versions with fresh vegetables, low sodium cheese, boiled chicken, and whole grain, no salt crusts. Additionally, frequency must be limited, no more than once every 2 weeks, and only 1 to 2 slices per meal, paired with greens and plenty of water to help offset sodium's effects. The health of older adults isn't just shaped by age or aches and pains. It's also shaped by familiar foods that, over time, quietly overload the heart with every bite. 3. Processed cheese. Just 2 slices of processed cheese a day could deliver as much sodium as an entire fast food meal, without you even realizing it. For older adults, this silently increases the risk of stroke and heart failure. That's the little-known truth about processed cheese, a seemingly harmless food that finds its way into sandwiches, burgers, or even a light salad. But in reality, processed cheese is one of the most dangerous sodium sources for seniors battling high blood pressure. According to reports from the American Heart Association, AHA, and the CDC, 1 slice of processed cheese, such as American cheese, contains 250 to 300 milligrams of sodium. Just 2 slices, a common serving for older adults during breakfast or snacks, already delivers up to 40% of the recommended daily sodium limit. The problem isn't in one meal, but in the silent daily accumulation of sodium, causing blood pressure to gradually climb over time. Even more concerning, processed cheese is high in saturated fat and cholesterol, both of which directly contribute to arterial plaque, narrowed vessels, and increased blood pressure, major cardiovascular threats for aging individuals. A report from the Journal of the American Heart Association found that diets high in processed foods, especially industrial cheese products, significantly increase the risk of hypertension and stroke in adults over 60. Additionally, this type of cheese often contains emulsifiers, hydrogenated oils, and phosphates, which can strain the kidneys and reduce the effectiveness of blood pressure medications like diuretics or ACE inhibitors. What makes this even more dangerous is that seniors often don't feel immediate symptoms after eating salty foods. However, their numbers are changing silently every day. Fluid retention, swollen limbs, shortness of breath, these symptoms may appear weeks later after daily cheese consumption, especially if sodium intake from other meals is not balanced. For those who regularly eat sandwiches, burgers, or snack on cheese slices in the evening, chronic high blood pressure is a very real risk, and one that is often overlooked. Cheese itself is not a bad food, but processed cheese, loaded with salt, fat, and additives, is not safe for older adults. If you're managing your blood pressure, choose low sodium, fresh cheeses. Eat them in moderation. Avoid daily consumption, and always check the sodium content on the label. Because sometimes, the real danger isn't the medication you're taking. It's that familiar slice of cheese on your breakfast plate. 2. Instant noodles. If you're over 60 and still eat instant noodles every week, it's time to stop. Not because they lack nutrition, but because just one packet can silently push your blood pressure to dangerous levels. Due to their convenience, low cost, and easy preparation, instant noodles have become a go-to quick meal for many older adults. But behind that simplicity lies a serious threat to heart health, mainly due to the high levels of sodium, saturated fats, additives, and fast-digesting carbs. A typical pack of instant noodles contains between 900 to 1,600 milligrams of sodium, close to or even above the daily maximum recommended for people over 60, 1,500 milligrams per day. If consumed with the broth, plus extras like eggs, sausage, or a sugary drink, the total sodium can exceed 2,000 milligrams in just one meal. For older adults, who often have less elastic blood vessels, weaker heart function, and reduced kidney capacity, excess sodium increases blood volume, elevating blood pressure quickly and making it difficult to control. It's not just sodium. Instant noodles are also high in saturated fats and trans fats, especially when fried in reused oil, common in cheap products. These fats raise bad cholesterol, LDL, promote arterial stiffness, and narrow the blood vessels, forcing the heart to work harder and indirectly raising blood pressure over time. A study by Harvard's T.H. Chan School of Public Health showed that consuming excessive saturated fat daily increases the risk of heart disease and hypertension by 25 to 35% within 5 years. The seasoning packets are also a concern. They often contain MSG, TBHQ, a preservative, phosphates, and artificial flavorings. These additives can trigger symptoms like heart palpitations, headaches, and fatigue, especially in sensitive individuals. Long-term intake can also harm kidney function and increase the risk of osteoporosis, particularly for seniors with chronic conditions. Data from South Korea, a country with high instant noodle consumption, shows that women who eat noodles at least twice a week are 68% more likely to develop metabolic syndrome, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and insulin resistance, regardless of their total calorie intake. The risk is driven by sodium, fat, and chemical additives. In the US, the average adult consumes about 3,400 milligrams of sodium per day, more than double the safe limit for older adults. For those over 60, just one noodle meal with salty side dishes like pickles or processed meats can far exceed daily sodium recommendations. This high sodium load causes water retention, leading to swollen legs, joint pain, mild weight gain, and a heavy, sluggish feeling, early signs of potential heart failure. A lesser known danger is that excessive sodium reduces the effectiveness of blood pressure medications like diuretics, ACE inhibitors, or beta blockers. Patients may require higher doses, which increases the risk of side effects and organ damage. A study published in the Journal of Hypertension found that seniors who didn't control their sodium intake were 2.4 times more likely to fail hypertension treatment than those who followed dietary recommendations. In contrast, the DASH diet, endorsed by the U.S. National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, promotes fresh, low-sodium foods, rich in potassium, fiber, lean protein, and minimal saturated fat. When comparing a noodle meal, up to 1,600 milligrams sodium, 14 to 18 grams saturated fat, no fiber, and 400 to 500 empty calories, to a DASH meal, brown rice, grilled fish, steamed greens, and fruit, less than 600 milligrams sodium. The difference is clear in both nutrition and blood pressure control. Beyond hypertension, long-term instant noodle consumption can also disrupt digestion and metabolism, causing blood sugar spikes, fatigue after meals, taste desensitization, and reduced appetite for healthy whole foods. If giving up noodles immediately is difficult, try switching to non-fried varieties like soba, udon, or whole grain noodles, boiled in homemade broth made from vegetables, mild chicken stock, or seaweed instead of using the seasoning packet. You can also reduce harm by using only half the flavoring packet, discarding the soup, and adding greens, boiled eggs, chicken breast, or tofu. This boosts fiber, clean protein, and potassium to help offset the sodium's impact on blood pressure. 1. Bacon. Bacon, a small strip, but a big threat to an aging heart. In American food culture, bacon is nearly inseparable from breakfast. Crispy, savory, convenient, and energy-dense. Yet, it's this very familiarity that often leads older adults to overlook its true impact on blood pressure and heart health. Just one typical serving of bacon, about 3 strips, 34 to 40 grams, contains between 600 to 1,000 milligrams of sodium, which accounts for 40 to 70% of the daily recommended sodium limit for adults over 60, as advised by the American Heart Association, AHA. That limit is 1,500 milligrams per day to help protect blood vessels and manage hypertension. Worse still, bacon is loaded with saturated fat, which makes up 40 to 50% of its calories, creating a dangerous combo that causes arteries to constrict, retains fluid in the bloodstream, and can spike blood pressure within hours of eating. According to a 2021 report from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, people who regularly consume processed meats like bacon have a 23% higher risk of developing high blood pressure compared to those who rarely or never eat them. And that risk increases with frequency. Bacon isn't just salty, it's also cured with nitrates and nitrites, preservatives that give it a reddish color and prevent bacterial growth. But once inside the body, these compounds can convert into nitrosamines, known to damage blood vessel linings and act as potential cancer-causing agents. For seniors, especially those with pre-existing heart, kidney issues, or who are on blood pressure medication, eating bacon regularly can reduce the effectiveness of their treatment, require higher medication doses over time, and raise the risk of complications in both the heart and kidneys. What's particularly dangerous is that many older adults eat bacon in the morning when blood pressure is already at its natural peak. Pairing bacon with white bread, cheese, or salted eggs creates a sodium bomb breakfast that the cardiovascular system can barely handle. The effects don't show up instantly, but over time, this pattern can lead to chronic hypertension, left-sided heart failure, kidney decline, and increased risk of stroke, especially if it continues over years. A 2019 study by Harvard School of Public Health found that eating just 50 grams of processed meat daily, equal to about 3 to 4 slices of bacon, increases the risk of cardiovascular disease by 42% and the risk of early death by 19% for adults over 60. The scariest part? Most seniors don't feel their blood pressure rising. There's no headache, no tiredness. Until one day, their BP reading shoots past 160, or worse, they find out after suffering a mild stroke. Bacon may be small, but it's far from harmless. For older adults, trying to manage their blood pressure, eating bacon regularly is like stripping away the heart's last line of defense. If quitting completely isn't possible, limit consumption to no more than 1 to 2 times a month. Choose nitrate-free and lower sodium options, bake instead of fry, and balance it out with potassium-rich fruits and vegetables like bananas, avocado, or spinach. Most importantly, reevaluate your everyday eating habits, because protecting your health doesn't come from dramatic changes, but from how you choose to start your morning. Don't wait until your blood pressure spikes to ask why. Start taking control with what's on your plate each day. If you care about your health or your parents, knowing these 7 seemingly harmless foods could help you avoid serious consequences. Share this video with anyone over 50. And don't forget to follow the channel to learn exactly which 7 foods to avoid next. Because one small change today could prevent a stroke tomorrow.